Welcome, everybody, to the Project Exodus Court podcast, episode 6. Broadcasting not live from the Salvation Army Church on Tuttle, Sarasota. Come check us out this Saturday. Paul will be giving a presentation on recovering spiritually. He's going to have a stellar panel to come share their experience with you about how they've recovered spiritually. We have I'm Andrew, by the way. Paul's back there on the computer. That cute guy at the end is Joel, and this is my good friend,
our special guest.
You want us to call you by your street name?
Nah, my government name is Jesus.
All right.
Street name Zeus.
Oh, that makes sense now. Oh,
yeah, that's our good friend Zeus. Zeus is also in recovery with us, and would you say it'll be a year? It was a year in March.
It was a year in March.
Yeah, congratulations, man. Zeus is I don't know what the technical term is. He's a barber. Yeah. And we're real thankful to have Zeus on tonight. We wanted to bring him on because we had a pretty big announcement. So you're all aware of the fentanyl walk that we have going on with a lot of other programs in town on September 1st. Zeus is going to be out there volunteering cutting hair for a couple hours for some people. And the goal is we really hope that we can, find someone that's maybe in early recovery. Maybe they're trying to find a job and they just need to get cleaned up. And our boy Zeus here has volunteered. It's a big shout out to him, Zeus Diaz. He cuts hair down on Main Street at.
Yep. It's called Salon 41 on Main.
Yeah, and then you said you picked up another spot in Bradenton.
And I'm at another location in Bradenton. If you're out that way towards the downtown area, it's called Blur Barber Studio. So you can come check me out over there. I'm typically there in the afternoons, and Salon 41 on Main. I'm there in the mornings till early afternoon.
Yeah.
And they can look you up on Booksy too, right? The app Booksy. And then what's your
Booksy. It's called The Midas Touch. And I'm also on, it's probably easier to just find me on Instagram at g.zeus_fade then.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely post that on the finished product of this. It'll be across the bottom of your screen. Look, we want to support the people in our community that are like us, that are really trying to make something of themselves. And Zeus does an amazing job as a barber. You can see Andrew's haircut. He cuts Andrew's hair, and I'm sure he's going to be cutting a lot of our hair coming soon.
I've been trying to get in there again. I just haven't time to get in there.
Yeah. So we're real thankful to have him on. We just kind of wanted to bring on a guest tonight and kind of talk about some different issues and different things that might be piquing our interest. Before we go too far, I do want to again just mention to everyone, we're Project Exodus Corp. We help people in early recovery, but we're really just a group of dudes and a group of girls, guys and girls, I guess, that we're friends, we're family, and we like helping people, and that's what keeps me sober. And we do a lot of service work. We take meetings places, and we have our own meeting on Saturday nights at 7:00 here at the Salvation Army on Tuttle, 1701 South Tuttle Avenue. And so if you're listening to this, please follow us on Facebook. You can go to our YouTube page, subscribe. That does a lot for us just as far as spreading the awareness. And like I mentioned earlier, on September 1st at J.D. Hamill Park, from I think starting at 12 o'clock to like 4, 5 o'clock, there's a fentanyl awareness walk and memorial side of that as well. There'll be a ton of people out there, different programs. You can come by, check us out. We're going to be doing a podcast there. Again, Zeus is going to be giving out some haircuts. We're going to have shirts, stickers, bracelets, and many other things. So we just really encourage you to come out, support that, and talk to people if you've lost someone to this disease or to an overdose. It's a really good place to go and just kind of connect to other people. But yeah, so I guess tonight, starting out, I guess what we want to talk about? I guess Mr. Zeus here. Zeus, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Originally from Bradenton, Sarasota area. Raised up north. Spent the last 20 years down here.
Yeah.
I've been cutting hair for about 12 years now, and I kind of got into recovery because of my struggles with addiction and alcohol. And it took me quite some time to kind of come to terms with the fact that I was dealing with that myself. It was a mutual friend of ours, Mike, who ended up kind of reaching out his hand and, inviting me to one of the meetings. And initially, I kind of hesitated, and took me a while to accept that these were the things that I was dealing with. And after a while, I kind of just came to terms with, yeah, this is who I am. This is something I'm dealing with. And what really started happening is that it started taking a real toll on my performance at work. I started drinking heavily and binge drinking, and I would be missing weeks at a time. I'd wake up and drink all day during the morning, get depressed, black out, shut off my phone, miss appointments, and then try to go at it by myself, go to the gym, work out, do all that, not realizing that it was actually a problem. Um, it started happening more often, and I started losing business because of it. And I started going to work and having to deal with the shakes and the blurry vision and my heart palpitations. And I didn't truly understand what was going on with me. I wasn't aware of addiction. No one ever stopped me and said, hey, maybe you should go do this, or you have a problem. I had people that were concerned, but they thought, he'll figure it out. Um, so one day, I think Mike saw me, and then he called me and he told me to come to the meeting, and I came. And when I heard everybody speak, and I initially read the book, the first couple pages, I started bawling because I realized whoever wrote this was writing about me. And that's when I kind of, like I said, it took me a while to have it click, but I ended up moving to Miami thinking that I can maybe it was a place. If I go somewhere else, maybe I can just, that was the problem. It was just a place. I was here for too long. It sucked. I needed to go somewhere else. I feel better. Once I got there, I realized I took me with me, and I never dealt with the issue. And it crept up again. After 2 months of being sober, it crept up again. Um, I started drinking heavily. After walking down the beach and quitting the job that I went to initially do, which was a good opportunity, I started seeing all the homeless people there talking to themselves and living on the beach. And I'm like, this is definitely going to be me if I don't get my act right. So, yeah, I called some friends and family and told them, yeah, I really do have an issue and I really do need some help. And I'm going to give this a shot. And I came to terms with the fact that, I am struggling with addiction, alcohol addiction and substance abuse. And I really got to give this a shot. And that was a year ago. Um, and yeah, I have a year and a couple months of sobriety under my belt. And I'm looking forward to giving back because these these groups have given me I wouldn't say a remedy or a solution. It's something that's ongoing and continuous that I have to continue to work at. But it's given me a way to actually deal with the issue. Not I couldn't go to a hospital or something like that. There's an pill to make this go away. It's constantly having to work at it, and it's these groups and the camaraderie that actually helps make this work. So I'm very excited to be able to help, and I'm glad that you reached out.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
As far as
You're in there.
I don't know.
I could hear you
It's
breathing.
probably just that.
No, I had to turn it down because you were like. I was going to ask you real quick. That was amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that. There was one thing you said that has really struck me, like when you said there was a moment where you realized you were addicted.
Yeah.
And it was so hard for me personally to ever be like, oh, I'm not an addict. Like, I'm not addicted. I can stop whenever I want. But when I had that moment of like, oh, I can't, like, it was a paralyzing feeling. Like it truly felt like I was lost and no one understood. And hats off to Mike. Was he from that same Mike from Project 180?
He was, yeah, he was
Yeah.
in Project 180.
Shout out to Mike and Project 180. Like,
Shooby dooby.
you know, Andrew was my saving grace, like that helped me understand that I was an addict, but there was a way out and there was a solution. And so, like, I appreciate you saying that, because it, being an inspiration to people is not always easy. And for what you're doing and helping people. And what I was going to ask you was, what do you do? So as of today, like in your recovery, what does your recovery look like today? Like other than service work and things of that nature?
I mean, I just going to meetings at least 3 or 4 times a week is what it's been for the past year. I was this is my ex now, kind of on and off again. I kind of tapered off, and I got back into it because of her. She was new in the recovery thing, and she didn't understand at the time. Like, this is a forever thing, and as we got to know each other, we met through a meeting, and
Oh shit!
yeah, and
Oh, you were dating in the rooms?
You get a pass.
no,
There's a
that
name
was
for
the
that.
thing. She went to the meeting. I tapered off of the meeting.
It's okay. I'm engaged to a girl I met in meetings.
So we became friends after months of. I didn't care too much for her when I first met her. She was actually
we can edit that part out.
yeah, a friend of a mutual friend, and after a while, I got to know her and hear her story, and it really touched me because she had been through a lot, and she didn't understand initially going into the room. She really just thought that you would be able to go and then come back out after a while and just go back to maybe just drinking wine or beer. I'm like, that's not how this works, and it took me a while to understand that for myself. I tried all the other ways, like it says in the book. I'm like, okay, well, if I switch from alcohol to beer or beer to wine, none of those work. So trying to explain that to her, I'm like, I'm gonna go with you because I need this just as much as you do, and I'm just kind of being,
Isn't that wild?
yeah,
Like, isn't it wild that, like, I don't know how unusual it is, but I've had people, like, now that I've got 2 years sober, I actually had someone ask, and I won't say who. Someone asked me the other day. They was like, "Oh, you're 2 years sober. So does that mean you can't drink at all?" And I had to explain to him, it's not the liquor and the alcohol that's the problem. It's my thinking. Like, we could all sit down and have a drink. I just won't stop. And that will lead to other things. It just will.
I did the wine thing once. It was like, I didn't even know wine could get you drunk. But when you're like, I'm not going to drink tequila or rum, or, I drink too much beer, I'll just drink some wine, and then you drink a whole bottle of wine, and like, holy cow.
yeah,
Like that,
Then you're calling dope man.
yeah, purple mouth and all that. You're just,
What was your flavor?
whatever got me drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
just
care.
the highest alcohol percentage.
Yeah, and that is
Steel
exactly
reserves.
right. Whatever had the
Well,
highest
cheap.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about how I've had people tell me, it's like, yeah, I was a bourbon guy. One of our good friends is a bourbon guy. I think Bob is, or that's what he would say. He's like, I was a bourbon guy, and I remember there was just stints where I was like a rum and coke guy, but my go-to was Jaeger. Like, people hated it, but like that was the only one I could like drink and enjoy.
Jack and Coke
Here we go.
was a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an ex, and she just kind of tried to compete with me, and that's way before I realized that I had a problem, and that was our go-to drink, and we would just kill those bottles, and that's kind of when the initial, like, starting to understand, like, this is really an issue because we're both like up to par with each other in regards to the whole drinking thing.
She drinks like a man.
Yeah, she would try to keep up there with me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah,
That must have been a great, healthy relationship.
nah, it's hella toxic. Yeah, super toxic.
You know what's funny is I met Mike. So in my life and in my addiction, part of my consequences for the things I was doing while I was, in my addiction was I had to go to prison. Well, I met Mike, in a jail cell in Sarasota County Jail before I went and had to do, 2 years in prison. And then, so that was 2015. Then I meet back up with Mike in 2019, and I was at the Salvation Army in rehab, and he was in there like bringing a meeting or something, and we kind of connected. But it's funny, like the two best friends I have, Mike, I met him in jail, and then
What about Joel?
I mean, we met in a halfway house. It's basically like jail. It's Greg's, yeah. Anyways, but like Mike was the guy when I was out there in my car, sitting in IHOP parking lot, looking at pictures of my son, just in tears because I wanted to stop so bad and I couldn't. And I would call him and just crying, and he would answer the phone and be like, "Dude, I'll meet you at the hospital right now. Meet me at detox. Let's just go, man. Just go." And I was like, oh, there was always some excuse why I couldn't go. Like at that time, even though I needed to go, and there was really nothing so pressing that I was like homeless in my car, and when it was time for me to face up and turn myself in to go do this little bit of time, that the 9 days in jail where I met you, Mike is the one who set me up with a ride to get to court. When I was in the pod with you, the person I would call on the phone was Mike. When I got out, Mike took me to my first meeting. He helped me move into the halfway house. He's since moved to Maine, and he's doing great up there. As he's got a little boy. I think he's about to turn 4. It's just kind of crazy how like that it comes full circle, and then the power of service, the power of living a life where all is the problem, right? And like I could relate to so much to what he was saying, because for my whole life it was like, and like you said, I just thought that nobody understood until I.
Who was your guy, Joel?
What's that?
Like I know. I mean, for those that are listening, I don't think all three of us have like really shared our story in recovery, and that's probably something we should do. But what was there any like individual that,
like the guy that pushed me into recovery?
Yeah, that kind of said, "Hey, here's a suggestion." Like
that'd definitely be Greg. That guy pushed me past every boundary I was ever wanting to go in recovery, and still does today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just done in a little bit more of an unorthodox way.
How'd you meet Greg?
Because we were
you got some quotes?
Met him in the recovery homes. So
yeah. So in that regard, like, I see that's what's so puzzling to me about a lot of people in recovery, is because like I couldn't imagine even being introduced to it without someone like saying, "Oh, have you tried this?" And just like you were talking about with Mike, like I was talking about with you and you with Greg, like I think that's why service is such an important thing. Like going into this fentanyl walk and then offering haircuts. Like my idea, and I hope this pans out. I don't know if it's too invasive or whatnot, but I really hope that there's somebody sitting on a sidewalk out behind the Salvation Army that hears about the fentanyl walk, and they don't come to it thinking there's free fentanyl. You know what I mean? Like they come to it really seeking help, and maybe they're just trying to get on their feet, and they see free haircuts, and really come and get a haircut. And we get to really kind of talk to them and say, "Hey, tell us your story." And that to me would be like
Stupid.
What?
Oh no, just that scenario you just said.
What?
It's just like something that I probably wouldn't have been naive enough to think that I would go to the fentanyl walk, that there was free fentanyl.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Ridiculous.
I like Zeus's how he when he told his story pretty much right then, how he walked. Like, so for anyone that's like listening out there, I too did a bunch of geographical moves, thinking the problem wasn't necessarily me, even though it was getting hinted to me the whole time in the back of my mind. I started looking at the guys that were drinking and using the same way I was, that were older, and I could kind of see where my life was going. And then I moved from state to state. Even in certain states, I'd move to another city. I would date women that would take me away from other people. I mean, I put all these roadblocks and barriers, physically and geographically in front of me. slowly kind of coming to terms that the problem is me. It's always been me and always will be me.
In 2000 and I want to say 2013, I moved to Florida from Alabama. And when I was living in Alabama, I had like a horrible cocaine addiction. When I wasn't homeless or anything, but it was like every paycheck I was getting cocaine. I was getting a gram, 8 ball. Yeah, I was having a weekend. And
It was so fast.
And I remember, like, I don't think about it. It just reminds me. I remember thinking, oh, when I moved to Florida, I won't have to do drugs anymore because I won't have all these drug dealers and all this. But Florida's known for good cocaine. Like I moved here and it was like, I knew where to go. I knew to go to the bar and just start shooting pool and then run into whoever. Real good drug dealer up there. Mark, Spanish guy, great dude. No, and I think I still owe him money somehow. But, it doesn't really matter where we go. Yeah. We know how to find what we're looking for. And,
and that's the craziest part of this disease, man. It's like you're wanting to try something different, so you move to another state, you change cities, whatever, and then you have to always resort back to your coping mechanisms. That's the only thing you know. It's like, how else am I going to have fun? How else am I going to chase comfort? There's no other way. There's not even there was nothing in my mind that suggested I could have fun in any other way.
Yeah, it's I think once I realized how much of a mental aspect was involved, I remember when I finally got arrested, I was telling my little brother this on the phone. For the longest time, I was so resentful towards those two detectives that arrested me before I got sober. And now I think of them, like I always think, like, man, thank God they
heroes.
Thank God they pulled me out of that shed. Because like it was now I'm like, I look back and I'm like, man, if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing this. And so I'm just so grateful. But like the mental aspect is you've grown to a point where it's everybody else's fault. Or, oh, this isn't that bad. I'm not that bad. Like you've convinced yourself that you're a victim or, it's not your problem. But I'm really glad that, the rooms of AA and NA and the fellowship and the unity set my mind straight.
If not for the people before us that were the way that they designed the steps to work and the last step to give back, to give back what was given to you.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So,
and it's important to understand even just in that cycle, like, my other greatest coping mechanism was denial. It pairs really well with an alcohol and drug addiction. And if you can get both of those going, man, you can ride that out for a lifetime.
You know what's weird is I when I tell people I genuinely thought like AA was something in the movies, like the meetings. Like I'm very serious, but I just remember for a long time, like when I was using it, I was like, yeah, the first step in recovery is deny, or that you're an addict is that you're in denial. Like I was just like I would hear these weird things, and now like being in recovery and it's like understanding my life's unmanageable, like the insanity of it. It's weird, like how freely recovery and the 12 steps are given. Like it's completely free for the most. Like I can't think of anything I ever paid for.
$1 meeting.
Yeah.
The first guy that ever sponsored me used to say classic alcoholic behavior was deny and project. And like, I don't have a problem. Like it's your fault.
Yeah. Or run.
Yeah, run. I used to ran for myself forever.
And like I never realized like how dishonest, like, not to be biblical, but when it says, in the Bible to not lie, it's like one of the 10 commandments is like, thou shalt not lie or whatever. But like how many lies? It was like it became so normal, and not just lie about what we were doing or where we were going or what the money was for, but lying to ourselves.
Yeah, that's the biggest lie.
Like you don't even realize. Like now, I realize I tell people how much of a fraud I was, and mostly to myself. Like I don't have a problem, you have a problem. But it's really interesting, and just kind of keep the cadence and the transition. This weekend, yours truly is bringing the presentation. Kind of had an audible. We had, I think we had Nicole scheduled. She's going to be up in 2 weeks. And Joel's going to be pushed out, so that's news to everybody. But my topic this weekend is recovering spiritually. And if you've been to our meetings or you're aware of like the meetings, like for 4 months now, since April 27th, we've been doing these meetings. And the theme kind of has been up to this point is like recovering. For me, it's been like recovering in relationships, recovering financially, recovering. I think it was Shawnee did one on parenting and co-parent or codependency. You just did one on
Self-care.
I think you did one on discipline, didn't you? Or no?
No.
Goals. But a lot of this stuff is really talking about, for me, is like recovering in these various areas. And in the 12-step programs, the spiritual aspect of recovery is huge. And for me, when I came into recovery and there was all this talk about a relationship with your higher power and things of that nature, for those that don't know, I was an evangelist for a vast majority of my teenage years and my adult life. And so I always thought I had like this really good connection with God. And once I got into recovery, I realized that my view of God was skewed. It wasn't completely accurate to what, most modern day Christians would think. It was very condemning. There was nothing I could do that was right. Like I was always going to hell for something. And so when I got into my deepest, darkest places of addiction, I just had this complete and total separation from my higher power. Like I remember telling people, I had a moment where I was like in deep tears talking to someone about how much I miss going to church. Like, cause I was crying. I was like, cause my grandmother had raised me this way and my grandfather, and I felt like I was just disappointing so many people. And then I came to recovery. And so I had like this separation from spirituality. Like I knew who was there and I didn't know if I really wanted to be friends with them anymore. And I'll never forget this. I had a hard time. I would go to Celebrate Recovery in a lot of these places, like these more spiritual meetings. And I didn't like the fact they had musical instruments and everybody's standing up and kind of dancing. And so I would leave every one of these events with a little resentment towards that event. I mean, I would go because I had to go. And I would get in arguments with my house manager about what's right, what's wrong spiritually. And one day I called Greg, the same guy Joel was talking about. And for those that don't know, hopefully we'll get Greg on here one day, but he was raised Mennonite. So I was raised in a really strict background, but Greg is a whole nother level of like, you can't do this or, you can't do that. And when I told him about it, he simply said, you got to remember, you got a loving Father in heaven who loves you. And I had just had me and Shelby had just had our first child, and it clicked. I was like, yeah, this is not just some big angry guy in the sky. This is my dad, and he wants what's best for me. And it was just a lot easier for me to have a relationship. But my point in all that is like, I didn't find that at church. I didn't find that in the scriptures in the sense of like, I found that in the rooms of AA. Like I found peace spiritually through another alcoholic like myself. And so I started to recover spiritually. I started being able to pray more and really feel confident about my relationship with God. And different scriptures and words took on different meanings for me, where I thought I had an understanding, but I didn't. So as it comes to like recovering spiritually, I know not everybody's got the same spiritual background, but for you, Zeus, like what was your spiritual relationship, or what was your spiritual background before you got sober?
I had a huge resentment towards God. I was just one of those people who I grew up watching my mother, struggle to raise us. And I always questioned, I always heard there's a God. And I said, well, if God is this good, then why is it that we're going through all these things? Because she's not a bad person. But I see people who don't deserve to have good things or doing bad things, living a better life than we are. And we're trying. So that was one of those things that I always kept with me. As I got older, I got involved with the street life and hustling and all these things that just I'd like to credit it to being a product of my environment, but a lot of that was a conscious choice. I mean, I chose to do that at a young age, and getting older and having to deal with this, to deal with
Grab
the.
that umbrella. I just noticed it's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. To deal with the struggles that I'm going through. I was angry at God for a very long time. While the whole thing with hustling, I still didn't process that I was dealing with um, these issues of addiction. They were slowly creeping in. When my best friend died of a drug overdose, that's kind of when I spiraled. Um, my other best friend that I brought him down here to work for me went to jail and is doing life within the 2 following years for murdering his girlfriend. So both of these guys work for me, and I couldn't. I was a control freak, and money gave me control, and that was my high. Once things started spiraling as we got older, the envy, the hate, the guns, the shootouts, the robberies, all these things started driving me to the point where I wanted to understand what I lost my best friend for, why he chose substance over our friendship or over money or the life that we had. And that's kind of when I started dabbling with more substances and just didn't care. I didn't care of what I had going on. And I blamed, like I said, I even though I was part of the reason, the majority of the reason why these guys were involved in this lifestyle was because I brought him in. My mind was like, well, they're grown men. They would have done it regardless. Or no, I didn't never wanted to accept the blame myself, and I was angry at God again because I was like, well, you took my best friend. Like I grew up with this kid, and my other homie is doing life in jail, so now I ain't got nobody. I felt like my family only used me for money. Every time I got a phone call, it's what do you want? Oh, I need to borrow this. I need to borrow that. But I created that persona. I created that character, and I didn't accept that I did that. So my relationship with God is it continued past that, trying to change my persona. I got stopped doing that, and then got caught up with the addiction part. I just picked up the drugs and kept using them, and stopped hustling them, and try to make a transition. And in that process, I would try to look for God, but the depression and the addiction and all that stuff like that would just drive me away, and I couldn't face. I'd see a lot of hypocrisy also in church because I try to look for people to try to give me an understanding of like what's going on with my life or what I'm going through, but it's kind of like you said. It wasn't until I got in these rooms that I understood. The guy who told me that when I moved to Miami, he said, the problem, he's the guy who's heavily involved with church. And he's like, the problem with you doing that is that you take you with you. And that was one of the guys that I called before I left and when I got back. And he told me the story of the prodigal son. And that on my way driving back, I broke down. And I started crying when I was driving back from Miami. I felt defeated, and I said, I give up trying to do things my way, because one of the things that I had was still that control issue. I still wanted to control the outcome when my life was unmanageable. No matter what I was trying to do, I felt like I was taking 10 steps ahead and 30 steps back. And everybody would tell me, they're like, oh, what's going on with you? Like, you should be so much better off. Like, but there's something, and it was this, the control factor, not relinquishing it over, not, having a higher power. And it took me to get into the book and actually take scripture and look at it in a different way, and actually being in these rooms around these people and understanding that, the people that from my point of view, the people that the meek shall inherit the earth, or the people, these are the ones that are not the rich, the ones that are the ones going through things, the ones that are struggling, who Jesus was actually trying to reach out to and help and all that. It's like me.
Yep.
And that changed things for me, and that really put things in perspective, that if I'm gonna follow after anyone or do anything or emulate anybody or anything, it should be that person, because these people are doing that same work. And there's someone pulled me out of the trenches, and I have a history with this person, and it was full circle, because I didn't know him from originally from the rooms. I knew him from my past life through somebody else, that I was contributing to that other person's downfall. And that's how I came around full circle. So the day that I called him crying, and it's like, you're doing better than me. You got out of this, and I heard your story. And I said, I feel guilty because I was one of those people who contributed to you being in that type of life. And now I need help to get out because I want what you have. And that's to me was a full circle moment. It's like that was my karma.
That's a humbling experience.
Yeah, it is.
You said something there I thought was interesting when you were talking about your friend that chose a substance over your friendship. And then later you were talking about how instead of selling drugs, you started using them. And I wonder how much of that, did you ever have a moment where you like, oh, I kind of get it now? Like, these things are addictive, you know? And I remember someone telling me one time, it was like Christmas, like 2018 or something. I was literally separated from my family. My wife was back home with her family at Christmas, and I was in line at the methadone clinic. And I was actively trying to get help. And I remember this guy that was in front of me. He had like a box, like he had been doing it long enough where he could like go and have take homes and things of that nature. And he just turned around and he says, and I told him, I was like, should I take Suboxone or methadone? He said, it don't matter. You're handcuffed to either one of them. And I was like, weird, but he was right. Like, there was no escaping it. Like, you got on this, and now it's like you're handcuffed to it. And so relationships didn't matter. Jobs didn't matter. You know, it's a weird place to be in. And I appreciate you sharing that, because that's, we forget sometimes, maybe not us as addicts, but I think a lot of people forget how paralyzing drug addiction is for a lot of people. And it's easy to come across, especially with our generation in particular, where there were pills in our medicine cabinet, you know, the parents had. And every time you had an injury, if you broke a foot, you know, they put you on a script of pain pills. And so you get that experience of that high really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some people say it's like, you know, especially for narcotics and opiates and things like that, like it feels like a hug from God is what some people would describe it. And have you ever heard that?
No, I've heard that, but it's like,
I don't know.
I mean, it feels that's why we get high, because it feels good. It feels good.
All right. So
I like that's my favorite parable, the prodigal son.
Tell us tell us the prodigal son.
For those
that are listening that's never heard it.
Okay. So it's about there's two sons, right? Yeah, there's two sons. And the one son, he wants his inheritance, and I don't know. I know there's like something behind that. Like back then, you get the inheritance when your father passes away.
Yeah, same as today.
So he wants his money up front, and he goes out and he squanders all the money. And at one point, he's like living in like a pig pen.
Yeah.
And he's like
begging for the slop.
He just wants to eat the slop, you know. And
now, in the meantime, the other son had stayed and worked the farm and was being loyal, and that was going on all while, you know, hoodlum over here that's taking his inheritance.
Well, Andrew was out there acting crazy, all the debauchery, and he decides he wants to go back. And
he was out there dumpster diving.
Yeah, and he wanted to go, so he was going to go back and ask to be one of his father's servants. Correct. So he goes back, and his father sees him in the distance. He sees him coming, and he's excited. You know, he's happy. He goes over there, and he gives him a ring, and whatever he does, you
kills
know,
the fatted calf,
and his brother was pissed. You know, he's like, seriously, you know, like I've been here, been loyal, been doing all this work, and
you've never done this stuff for me.
Yeah, and he's like, well, you know, he was lost, and now my son is found. He's back. I felt like we're all prodigal sons and daughters, and I feel like this having a spiritual life and connection to God, whatever you want to call it, is like the main thing that I was missing in my life. Like that's kind of what I needed to get to be able to, start to feel like I could be whole again.
For those that don't know, when I was at jail with Andrew, he was not spiritual or religious at all. Like there's this one story where we were in jail, we would get our trays, and usually when like a new guy would come in, like a DUI or like someone VOP, they didn't want their tray. And we would all split it. Andrew got mad one night because he got like left out on something before he went to bed. He goes,
well, because you had this crazy haircut, you'd go down, you'd get one tray, then you'd come back and with the hair down the side, and you'd be double trained all the whole time, and you're wanting this dude's extra food. I'm like, this piece of shit, this garbage.
he would go, Christians.
No, what did that was because we had this other guy in the cell named Joshua. So Paul and Joshua would be up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning just talking about Old Testament, Job and the story. I'm like, y'all just need to like chill out. And then in the morning they're hogging the trays. I'm like, you selfish.
You guys have busy days the next day.
Yeah, the reason I say that, but I remember the day you got out, or when I talked to you.
I think it was that day.
No,
the day I got out was the day that I reached out to you.
And when I spoke to him, so I knew about Eden.
You sounded happy.
Oh, I was very excited to have someone to speak to. When you got out, like, so leading up to that, there was like this huge custody battle. Like you hadn't heard from your son, and they wouldn't answer the phone. And when I talked to him, he's like, "Man, you're not gonna believe this, but my son's living at home with me and my mom right now. And like he's here, and you were talking about how like you knew it was divine intervention. Like you felt like God was.
It was like I can remember desiring and wanting a life where I could be with my son more because of some situations, like that led to him being, just taken from me for no fault of my own to begin with, but that kind of was like a catalyst for relapse, and but yeah, I was like, I just missed my son. And then
go for it, man.
Yeah.
No.
I just missed my son.
Yeah, no, for
sure. And then to no fault of my own, the day I come home, my son's there. And then some other stuff happens, so this Department of Children and Families comes in, and I became what's known as a non-offending parent in a DCF case. But like, just thinking back to that time, it's like,
I think when he said things come full circle, and you mentioned that, and like, I don't believe in coincidences anymore, like at all. Like, oh, it's just a coincidence that we're all friends and this all happened. And, like, I feel like God's hands are all over everything we do. And I'm not trying to, shove religion down anybody's throat. I'm just trying to really tell people from my experience that he's there.
I feel like that's how God speaks to me, is through all of the connections with the people I've met in AA, just in life in general. Like most of the people I get connected to, I feel like that's how God moves in my life.
Well, for those that don't know, this guy that, maybe had his faith shaken in jail invited me to church Sunday. So, like, it's wild, like how you said, like you want to be in control. It's like when you finally let go and just let God guide your life and have faith. And I don't want to say walk blindly, but it's like stop trying to lead yourself in the right direction, because you don't have to do that. What about you, Joel? Like, what's your experience, like spiritually, since you've gotten sober?
So I kind of look at the kind of my spiritual program these days is just out there giving love, man, through the service work. I mean, that was when I looked around at every guy. I was dissecting every guy's program and who was relapsing, who was going out, who was ODing, who wasn't ever coming back, who was going back to jail, who was, I mean, I was trying to keep tabs and, kind of taking a different viewpoint instead of just being stuck in the AA rooms and listening to the elders in there telling me what I'm supposed to do. Like sat back and I had just a good position to look at, in the recovery homes, to look at 50 some guys all at once and study their programs and why they were there, and what kind of program they're working. Was it 12-step? Where are they going to meetings? Where are they taking
their inventory?
After a couple of years of just studying, you know what I mean? Because I always had an issue with respecting any type of authority. So I always thought kind of the elders in the recovery rooms were kind of an authoritative figure. So I was like, I got to push back at, people trying to pressure me or whatever. But anyway, I when I looked at everyone's programs, it was the service work. I felt like just not a lot of guys were doing, and the guys that were doing it were
80 years old
in recovery. Oh. And then when I started, through Greg pushing me to do service work, going into Salvation Army, going to other programs, really, it just that's where it got me. I mean, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't have a nonprofit. We wouldn't have any of this stuff. I wouldn't be running, recovery homes if I wouldn't have got involved in the service work. So if I think
you do a ton of service, dude. Like when I didn't even think I knew just how much you were doing until we started Project Exodus, the court program.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were managing all the houses and dealing with all that too. Like, it's inspiring.
Yeah, service is wild. Like you really touched on this when you were talking about you didn't see a lot of people. Like I remember being in a house and being the only person like taking a meeting somewhere. Like I feel like if you can make it to that point of recovery,
it's integral to that giving back part. Is
Joel saved my life with that. Like when he told me about like whenever there was an opportunity to be an assistant house leader, and I was. Like it wasn't rare for me and Joel to sit next to each other at Celebrate Recovery. We'd set a couple chairs apart for a few years. We were going there every week, and just this one particular day, I was like, "Man, Joel, Lonnie's asking me to be assistant house manager. How dare he?" And you were like, "It'd be good for your recovery," and like that interaction it didn't take a lot of courage for Joel. But how many people I'd ran that by that would have been like, oh man,
yeah, don't do it,
don't do that. But Joel was like, it'd be good for you. Like, what are you worried about?
Yeah. Did you do it?
Yeah, and then but it set up this confidence. Like I didn't have enough confidence in myself, but Joel had enough confidence in me to say, hey, go do this. Lonnie had enough confidence to ask me to do it. It wasn't out of desperation. It was because they felt that I was the right person. But that led to going to the Salvation Army, being asked by Alan. What was Alan's? I can't remember Alan's last name. Not Alan Tobias, but another Alan. Schumann asked me to go to the Sally and do my speaking, and then he was like, "You want to do this? Like rotate weeks?" Yeah. And now we've been doing it for over a year, and then
I finally get back in the rotation again too.
Yeah, and Tony asking us to go do the Wednesday night, Monday night men's meeting at the Salvation Army. Doing that every other week. And I look forward like that. That was kind of like the short-term goals. Like once I got to that point, I knew I was going to be okay because you actually get a feeling of I'm helping somebody in early recovery, like someone helped me. And then it's just contagious. It's like super contagious, I would get asked to go share my story, but like that to me is one of the huge missing elements of a lot of people's recovery. Like I really hope that you can make it to the point of where you're taking a meeting or doing some type of service commitment that's so meaningful to you that you own it and you make it part of your day. And spiritually, it's like most people don't come up and ask you to be their sponsor, or at least for me, in just random moments. It's usually after a share or maybe after you told your story or one of these things. It's like that's where you can really let whoever your higher power is. For me, it's God. It's one of those things where people see that in you. Like when you were talking about, he had what I wanted. I like to me, it's not necessarily about money or cars. It's like I want that peace and happiness that person has. And I really hope that everyone in recovery gets to that point in their recovery where they're doing something service related to experience.
If you if you go to 12-step meetings and you haven't worked the 12 steps, then something's wrong. You know, like
I don't know if something's wrong. It's a lot of pressure to put on some guys. You know what I
I'm
mean?
just saying,
Yeah.
like I went to meetings, 12-step meetings for 14 years before I worked the steps.
Yeah, that's probably standard. I mean,
And I'm lucky I'm still alive. You know what I mean?
Can I ask you this? And this might even be a good topic. The quality of your sponsorship. I was lucky. I had a really good. I had a really good sponsor. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. Like that said, hey, we're meeting on this day every week, doing this step, and just showed me how it was done. And I remember he told me before we started, he said, I'm not taking you through the steps, but for one reason, and that's so you can take someone else through the steps. And that programmed my brain. Like, okay, I'm training. And I think, what do you guys think about picking a sponsor and like what you should be looking for, what you should expect from a sponsor as far as like maybe how often you're doing step work or?
I don't think it's how often. This goes back to the quantity versus quality. You know what I mean? The number one thing would be just to work the steps.
Mhm.
Period. I think service work needs to be involved right off the bat. You know what I mean? Share. You might not bring a lot of. You definitely bring a lot of experience in drinking and using or whatever. And I mean that's you sharing at a meeting about just what you went through and where you're at in life. Helps a lot of the guys that got 15, 20 years stay sober that night. You know what I mean?
I never got picked at my Monday night men's group. I never got picked to
No, I
very rarely. But you know, did Tony make you door greeter? That was service.
I was door greeter, and then I was coffee maker on like Tuesday or Thursday nights.
Yeah, I mean
But that was perfect because like every Monday night, I'm shaking the hands of all the guys in the meeting, and they're getting to know me.
Yeah, it's unity off the bat.
You know what's funny is I didn't know that was a service position, so I just stood out there and shook people's hands anyway.
Yeah,
and but like you touch on a really good point there. It's like, I guess as a sponsee, if you're new to recovery, you don't know what to expect, and so this sponsor is like your god.
Yeah,
and Tony could have told me to go jump off a bridge into this water, and I would have probably done it. Like, because I just had that much faith and confidence that this guy had been around. Because everybody's like, "That's your sponsor,"
yeah.
And
what they're really saying is that guy's going to challenge you.
Yeah,
that guy's going to push you. And so I guess that's kind of when you're first coming into recovery. That's the last thing you want, man. I don't want to get called at the meeting.
You just want the
head
easy way out. Yeah.
Who's the guy that's not going to make me do anything so I can stay me and stay in fear? And so that's it. Like, make me shake people's hands. Make me, like make me, work steps. Push me.
Make
past.
me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like everything I want in life is right on the other side of that fear. Push me past it because I am unable to do it myself.
I'm also like,
you got a sponsor, Zeus?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Like,
Do you go to meetings in? You live in Bradenton, right?
Yeah. So I had one here, but when I went to NA, and I just didn't get it. I'm supposed to call you, and I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Well, you got to read the book. I'm like, so what else? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, just call me if you need anything. That to me was like, no, dude, because I was very eager.
yeah,
And there was another guy that I wanted, but he looked like he wasn't trying to hear it. But his whole story was just like mine. Went from hustling to doing this stuff to all this. And, he had 20, 30 years, old guy. And he just like, he wasn't trying to. So then the other guy I picked, he said he was down, but I didn't get the like, you're trying to help me. Like, you were open, but you're not. I wanted someone who was going to be on my case. Like, hey, I know you want to get better, so we're going to do this day, this, that, and that wasn't the case. I have a sponsor now, and
hold him up.
And we're working the steps. I've been neglecting to do that, and I still struggle with just calling him. Yeah, he messages me every day. He tells me to do the gratitude
You're not
thing.
the only one
Yeah,
that deals with that.
I had Tony for like 3 months, and I was riding in the car with Todd Allen, and we were working together. And Todd goes, "Have you called your sponsor today?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Do you call your sponsor?" I'm like, "Yeah, I talk to him." He goes, "No, do you call him every day?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "You're supposed to call him every day." And so, like, immediately I pick up the phone, and Tony picks up. It's like, "You didn't tell me I had to call you every day." I was like, I was wondering when you was gonna start calling me. Like,
Sometimes that's like a thing. It's like, and I don't know if it's right or wrong. Maybe it's just like a style of sponsoring, but it's like, you know, they want to know you're serious. So unless till you call every day for a week or 2 weeks, it's kind of like call me every day for a week, and then we'll talk about working the steps. You know, it's like could do go to a meeting every day, call me every day for a week.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess at one point it shows commitment.
mhm.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean, but it also it keeps you. It might be just that little extra, thought and focus that keeps you sober that day. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, it's almost 6 o'clock, and I gotta call my sponsor.
Do you think that's like an old timer, an older?
yeah. It's like call me and like call 3 other people
Yeah.
in recovery is like a thing. You know,
Yeah.
so that's why because your sponsor might not always be there. That's why.
Well, that's before
It's-
text messages and emails, and this is before.
Oh man, what if you got a sponsor who was like email me every day for a
Yeah, I
week?
mean, but you know what I mean. Like this is when you had a phone, connected to the wall at your house, and you made that one phone call after dinner or
Yeah.
something.
Now you have one attached to your face.
Yeah,
It's like you got one. What's really unusual too is like from a sponsor's perspective, like you want a sponsee that's eager. You know what I mean? Like you don't want some guy that's like, oh, I got to get a sponsor.
I don't know. I mean,
Do you
I
like
think
your sponsors? Zeus?
so.
the guy I'm currently with now. Yeah,
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
would have been good content.
But I think
No.
the guy I was
Sponsor.
yeah,
Okay.
the guy originally the sponsor
Yeah.
was with the like I said, he's an older dude, but he just didn't seem
Oh, you asked the dude that you wanted to ask originally, and he's your sponsor now.
now.
Now,
Yeah,
yeah.
that guy. Yeah, I seen what he had with in regards to.
Can you hear that
yeah.
better now?
Yeah.
I just realized Zeus's headphones are like practically all the way down. So now you can hear what you sound like because I was over
Yeah.
here like his mic's way too low.
Yeah, his whole thing. So he had the whole thing going on with the Jesus church, the always coming through with something positive to say. And I was like, I like his whole flow. You know what I'm saying? Like his relationship was very based on the Bible, and they both were in recovery, and they both had a long time in sobriety and all that stuff. So I'm like, I like where this is heading. And I like what you have, and I definitely want to pick some of those characteristics up, and that's who I'm working with right now, if at all or anything, because he still messages me every day. It's me that I haven't been.
You better
'cause
call him when you leave here
once
tonight.
he
Call him and say
he had me at
ears
the
ringing.
gratitude. I get caught up with life in my head when things don't go my way. So I'm like, do I really have to write what I'm grateful for today? And every morning he sends me a whole list of every single morning. He's very good at that, and it's me that I got to get on that bus, and then just continue working the steps because he's pretty good at that stuff,
Yeah.
and always positive.
That's what kind of sponsor you're going to be.
that's a good bus to get on, man.
Yeah, it's not a bad
Practice
buzz.
gratitude every day. I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge. I mean, it's if you're not grateful for what you have nothing, man.
Yeah.
And hey, I want to make a quick comment.
Yeah, go
over
for it.
You were saying that everyone wants a certain sponsee or one that's eager to work or whatever. But if I really think about it, on like a true recovery, you take every person and plant a seed with them. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. I'm not out there shopping for the one. You know what I mean? That's the easy guy. I want the guy that doesn't want to be there, that's court ordered, that just he's like,
Of course,
like, I want that
this
guy.
step, and I'll sign your paper for you.
Yeah.
I want to plant a seed with that guy so he knows exactly where to come when things go down, and they will go down.
I use you a lot in conversations, especially when like Project Texas is just brought up, and I talk about like the different characters, and like
Yeah, we're all different. Man.
Oh man.
Joel is so honest too.
Joel is the best. Like anybody that doesn't know Joel on a personal level, he's an amazing guy, but he tells you what you need to hear. Like I'm so glad you're part of the team.
He's
dude.
super critical
I
of
don't even know
himself
what you
too.
guys are talking
Oh
about.
wow,
He's
Yeah.
awesome.
He's like,
I've never lived up to anything in my life.
No, he's awesome. So we're closing in on 59 minutes and 52 seconds. So that's pretty good. Solid hour of content.
Thanks, Zeus, man.
Zeus, I
Appreciate
want-
you, man.
Thank
Yeah.
y'all for having me.
No, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Zeus. Like, great share, great
Thank you.
story. I mean, we got to have you back on here soon. I mean,
Yeah, that'd be great.
just to remind, go
hey, I
ahead.
got a date tomorrow. I'm going to Ophelia's on the Bay, so I'm gonna need a haircut, man.
You hear that, Drew?
Like-
You're going to
Like
affiliates on the
tomorrow or something.
Is she in recovery?
Huh? She is.
Bay? Yeah, is
And
he
she loves
is
God.
he in recovery?
Huh?
She's in
Yeah.
recovery.
I mean, is she now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, she is, and she's amazing. And so yeah, I'm going to. Yeah, I'd like to get tightened up.
Yeah. So anybody that's listening to this that needs a good haircut,
like Zeus, we'll put you in there.
Zeus will put you
He'll tighten
on
you up.
real quick. So again, big shout out to Zeus. It's Zeus Diaz. What's your IG again?
Let me actually give you the correct information, right? So it's G.Zeus, like the Greek god, _fade_them
Yeah.
at Instagram.
Yeah, if you're in Sarasota, Bradenton, and you're looking for a good haircut from an honest guy that, has got his life together through sobriety, like please check him out. Remember, we're going to be at the Fentanyl Walk at JD Hamill Park here in Sarasota on September 1st, along with about 15, 20 other programs in town, raising awareness. We're going to be giving out all kinds of free stuff. We've got, I think I ordered like 500 stickers.
Yeah,
We got
come
8.
Going live, gonna be going live from there too. If you're out
Yep.
there, come stop by,
Come
say
to our
hi.
tent.
Come to our tent. We're going to be doing a podcast there. I'm going to try to do it live if we get good service and everything's up to par. We're going to be inviting some of the other programs. Interviews come in. We're going to be, Zeus is going to be there fading people up. So come by, share some love. We'll have our t-shirt tables. Angela, Susie, the girls will be out there.
I'll be out there salsa dancing
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to have fun. It's going to be a really good time.
with my shirt off.
Yeah. We ask you to please follow us on Facebook. We just reached 1,000 followers. We're on the push to 2,000 followers. So follow us there. Subscribe on Facebook. If you want to make a donation, you can go to our website, projectexoduscorp.com. That's also a place where you can go and find the collection of our shirts. So for Paul here with Project Exodus,
Andrew, what project?
Joel.
Zeus,
Zeus.
Love you guys. See
All
ya.
right, Shelby,
night.
Charlotte, love you.
good one.
Oh, Drew.
Oh my God. What was the thing you were singing last week?
Oh.
All right. Peace out, folks. Have a good night.